Just as a bit of a pretext here, everything I'm about to say is coming from the perspective of someone who has long criticized Mike Tomlin as being way too short-sighted. Good afternoon to you. Good Friday afternoon. I'm Dejan Kovacevic of DK Pittsburgh Sports. This is the new Double Shot Show that comes your way every weekday at 4 p.m. Eastern. It'll be Steelers versus Commanders Sunday in Landover, Maryland. A 6-2 opponent against a 7-2 opponent, and by every reckoning, a big game. And in Tomlin's world, they've all been big games. He's coached like that. He's administered like that. And I've been kind of tough on him in this specific regard for a while now. I think this attitude has been at least partly to blame for the Steelers not having won a playoff game in forever. But this season, I don't know. Something has seemed a bit different about him in this regard. And as I've covered him for a decade and a half, and I'd like to think I know him well enough to know that he'd never address this. Like, not unless he'd had a few beers or something. He'd never say, you know what? This is the year I decided to start taking the long view and not worry as much about winning that game that Sunday. I'd start making decisions. He's just not going to do that. But you want to know something? He actually has. The most prominent one, of course, was choosing Russell Wilson over Justin Fields when he did 2.5 weeks ago. It was not conventional wisdom. It was not something that really a lot of us even saw coming. And more to the point, it's not something that a lot of us, and way more important, not a lot of them on the inside agreed with. And there he was, puffing his chest out, figuratively saying, I get paid a lot to do this. And he didn't care if he was going to be, throwing other opinions and whatever else, other factors, maybe even possibly from his offensive people, maybe even from Arthur Smith, and saying, I need to win a Super Bowl here. I need to get this team better by the time the regular season is done so I can at least get past the first round of playoffs. So he actually stated at one point in the week where he chose Russ over Justin Fields that we've been good. At times we've been very good. What we need to be is great, and I need to at least see what I have in the other guy. So Russ goes out there, and Russ, to his credit, gets the job done, sticks it to a lot of us, and makes the coach look really smart. But it's not just that. It's not just that one. Throw another one at you. How about Peyton Wilson? Do you think it might have been way, 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 way easier for Tomlin to go into that very first game in Atlanta and have a defensive setup where his brand new green dot guy, his quarterback of the defense, Patrick Queen, was going to have a Landon Roberts? Good old reliable Landon was going to be right next to him and be able to make sure that things kind of settle down, stay calm. He'd have somebody out there to make sure that everything would be okay. He didn't do that. He put the kid out there. He put the 4th round pick out there. That was not a Tomlin type move. It just wasn't. It was his way of saying, if our defense is going to get where it needs to be, I don't need one guy who can go sideline to sideline, cut off screen passes, and chase tight ends all over the field. I need 2. In an NFL defense in 2024, you need 2. And the more experience that Peyton Wilson gets, the better he's going to be. Look how that's worked out, while also still having a Landon involved. There are examples of this all over, specific individual examples, but there won't be a more powerful one, not even Russell Wilson, not even Peyton Wilson, than just running the football. I know, it drives me nuts too, those handoffs on 2nd and 9. It drives me nuts when the first, I don't know, 2 out of the first 3 series in a game are 3-and-outs because all they did was turn around and give the ball to Najee. You're thinking, I get what you're doing. It's the whole, what Najee called the 15-round fight thing, and you want to make sure you wear the opponent down for the fourth quarter. But it's also working. It's working. The Steelers' running game is becoming more and more effective with each passing week, partly because the head coach stuck by Najee on this principle, even when Najee wasn't going well, partly because the other guys, they're looking at the calendar and they're seeing it's November and soon it'll be December, and they don't want to face that. When the weather gets colder and the season's been longer, they don't want to see 22 coming at them. They certainly don't want to see a combination of 22 and 30, and eventually when he gets back, Cordero Patterson, 84, slicing them up. But the goal isn't to just win games this weekend. The goal is to win, when they actually matter. When we come back, going to be joined by Chris Halleck.
At DK Pittsburgh Sports, we take pride in coverage that connects our city's fans to their favorite teams. Now, that connection's stronger than ever. Introducing our all-new state-of-the-art app. Find expert inside reporting and original podcasts. Check live box scores. Track the latest stats. Chat it up with our community of thousands of fans, all in one place. The new app from DK Pittsburgh Sports. Coverage that connects.
Now, again, it is a big game. I don't mean to diminish the game, but joined by Chris Halleck now over on the South Side. And the big game is big because of the Commanders more than anything else. And it's big within that because the Commanders have put up a lot of points. So they do present a different kind of challenge for the Steelers. It's different in what way, though, when you look at Jaden Daniels and his skill set from, say, Baltimore? The Steelers have been pretty good against the Ravens.
They have been pretty good against the Ravens. They have been pretty good against Lamar Jackson. I just don't think that just because the Steelers have the good win-loss record against Lamar Jackson doesn't necessarily mean that they figured out defending that type of skill set, because Jaden Daniels is not the same same exactly as Lamar Jackson in terms of being able to the number of runs and how often Baltimore wants to run with Lamar. Jaden Daniels is more like the matured version of Lamar, in which he tries to make plays with his arm first, and when he doesn't, he can find ways to hurt you with his legs. But he's also really calm and mature in the pocket, and I think that's what's kind of helped put him over the top. It's kind of the same way C.J. Stroud did.
C.J. Stroud is all I'm thinking as you're describing this. That's all I'm thinking.
And so, that to me is one of the things that makes it. You ask any offensive coordinator, that makes it so much easier to call plays. It makes it so much easier to sequence plays and to put a game plan together when you have a quarterback who can play within the structure of the offense. And what really helps put that over the top is their ability to improvise. And Jaden Daniels already has that ability, along with the ability to actually run the offense. And that's one of the reasons why I think he's helped put that team over the top, and that they're 7-2 right now.
Now, Daniels has had his weapons through the air. Terry McLaurin is obviously a very familiar name. For a while, he was the only good player Washington had. Zach Ertz is a big target for him, literally and figuratively, as the tight end. But from the running standpoint, which is where really Washington has made most of its progress, Daniels does a lot of that. Brian Robinson has done a lot of that. He didn't practice again today, Chris. Not every team follows the Mike Tomlin rules. If you don't practice Friday, you're not going to be ready for the game type of thing. But it seems like Robinson might miss yet another week due to a hamstring issue. And even if he doesn't, as we saw with Jaylen Warren here in his hamstring issue, you don't just come back and carry 30 times. You're just not the same guy. So what you're really looking at here is an offense on the Washington side that's got Daniels doing some running and Austin Eckler, the veteran, doing a lot of that running. How much do they lose without Robinson, who's a big dude who will wear you down?
Yeah, it's definitely a loss if he doesn't play. And even if he's less than 100%, it definitely will have an impact. Just because it's another weapon. And now all of a sudden you're asking Austin Eckler, who he's kind of been that guy to kind of prove that type of running back, while it can be very explosive at times, can't handle the ability to stay healthy by carrying the ball 350 times a season. It just doesn't happen. It's one of the reasons why people get so obsessed about Jalen Warren and be like, he's the guy who's got to carry it 20 times a game. He's not going to hold up. And Austin Eckler is kind of one of the reasons for that. So yeah, if the Commanders don't have Brian Robinson in this game, it definitely impacts their ability to run the ball, or at least their options on how they can run the ball, how they can attack the Steelers on the ground. It's still something that I wouldn't just automatically say, oh, well, now they're handicapped. But it definitely is a way that the Steelers can try to find ways to then contain Eckler on the ground and try to make the Commanders one-dimensional. Now,
I'm talking here as if Daniels is like some sort of throw-in to this offense as opposed to being the centerpiece. And the numbers don't lie. He's got a 71.5 completion percentage, Chris, 1,945 yards. He averages 216 per game. This is just through the air. Mm-hmm. He's also run for 459 yards. He's run 82 times. Talk about being durable and reliable in that sense. He's run for 4 touchdowns. He's thrown for 9. And yet I keep coming back to the Lamar thing. I know they're not the same player, but I do believe that there's got to be some similarities here as to how you can not attack them, but contain them. It's different, isn't it?
Yeah, there's no stopping. And even when the Steelers go into playing Lamar Jackson, they don't go in being like, we're going to neutralize him. No, it's all about
this. Yep.
Yeah.
Make his world smaller.
Correct. And I think I haven't had any player tell me this, and I wouldn't expect any player to tell me this, but I think they'll try to approach defending Jaden Daniels in a similar fashion to the way they try to defend Lamar Jackson. Now, I'm going to be devil's advocate here when it comes to the whole Lamar Jackson thing. The most recent time we saw Lamar Jackson play against the Steelers was last season. And yes, the Steelers won the game. Yes, the Steelers won the game, but let's remember that Ravens receivers dropped, 17 passes in that game.
They really did.
And that would not have been a very close game if they even catch half of those passes. And so I'm not going to say that the Steelers have some sort of magic formula. I think that Jaden Daniels can still be a very dangerous weapon because he does play a very similar way to Lamar Jackson. And to me, that is dangerous because Lamar is one of the best in the game right now.
Now, you asked TJ Watt this afternoon after practice about those similarities between Daniels and Jackson, and this was what number 90 had to say.
Yeah, I mean, I think just quarterbacks in general are just getting so mobile and using their legs, and it's not like it's just the mobility either. It's the ability to throw the ball down the field, extend plays, and you can be dangerous on the ground or throwing. And I think you've seen that in some of the really deep passes. He's able to break a couple tackles, and make those game-changing type plays. And it's a challenge for us. Not very comfortable with it. No matter who you play with, it's a challenge.
I'll tell you what, Halleck, you can have your devil's advocate here. They really feel like they solved Lamar forever ago. They are confident of that. And it's not a complicated approach. All they do is they don't over pursue. And meaning specifically off the edges. If you go all Bud Dupree on the process and go, after him, and you go running past him, guess what he's going to do? He's going to return the favor and run past you. Yep. Or he's going to give the ball to Derrick Henry, or he's going to dump it off on a screen. The Steelers now, as they're currently constituted, and I mentioned this just now in the opening segment, they have sideline to sideline guys in former Raven, Patrick Queen and Peyton Wilson, who can cut off those screen passes because they have the speed to do it. And they also have between, TJ and Alex Highsmith, and, if Nick Herbig can make it all the way back, they have guys who can make sure that they're, they almost have to hold themselves back a little bit.
Yeah. And I think that actually plays into just the overall philosophy of defenses in the NFL nowadays. They're fine with letting offenses take some stuff in front of them, but you're not getting behind us. You're not going to get the big plays. You're not going to get over the top, whether that's us over pursuing on the ground or us we're going to just play cover zero all day and play man across the board. Like, no, they're okay with being a little soft. And I think this defense, especially in this type of a game, they'll be more than happy if the Commanders do nothing but settle for field goals all day. Now, that means that the Commanders would move the ball. Sure, but if they just keep them out of the end zone and let them kick 5 field goals, man, that's only 15 points. That's holding one of the best offenses in the league to under 20 points. I think that's a major win in this game.
In other words, this will not be the weekend in which you see the Steelers, Mike Tomlin and Terrell Austin say, hey, you know what? Let's start blitzing. Let's start doing that. Not going to happen. When we come back, J1Q.
Safety is a habit. Gun safety and responsible storage are no different. Help prevent gun accidents, misuse, and theft. Keep firearms safe and secure when not in use. For safe storage options, visit projectchildsafe.org.
For today's J1Q, let's head up to Ethan McClelland in Adrian, Michigan.
The question is, what is your biggest concern with the rest of the Steelers schedule and potential? My concern is that they're 6-2 because of their somewhat easy-ish first half of the schedule. Not every team was a free win, obviously, but you had some softer teams you were playing against for a lot of that first half. So what's your biggest concern, and am I unreasonable with my thoughts?
You're not unreasonable, Ethan, and you're hardly the only one who has taken a look at the second half of the Steelers' schedule and said, wow, this is something. Okay? That was happening from about 20 seconds after the schedule was released this summer. And I get why. It's human nature to look at a lot of that and see certain teams and have certain thoughts about how they're supposed to perform or how they've performed in recent history. But you know what? I mean, I was the one back then kind of laughing this off because you just never know. You never know. I could just cite one small variable within all of this and point to the quarterback's health and say that it doesn't matter. You know, we can all look at, the Chiefs. I just had the wonderful young lady across the street who just made my coffee. She said she just got tickets for the Christmas game against the Chiefs. And she said to me, do you think they'll win? And I said, well, ask me if Patrick Mahomes is healthy. You know, ask me if Travis Kelce is healthy. You know, the Chiefs are 8-0. They've got a plus 56 points differential. It's about as bad a points differential as you can have to be undefeated halfway through an NFL season. Are they beatable? Sure. Is it likely to beat them? Of course not. They're the Chiefs. But if they don't have Mahomes, then they're just a bunch of dudes wearing red. There's all kinds of examples of this. The Commanders, these guys that they'll be facing this weekend, 7-2. Come on. You show me the individual anywhere, including people in the Washington locker room who thought they'd be 7-2 right now. There can't be more than a handful on the planet. But certain things aligned. They started snowballing a little bit, and they got good. And the biggest one of them all is the AFC North. I don't know how many of you would have stayed up late to watch what turned out to be a pretty entertaining finish between the Ravens and the Bengals. But those teams scare you? When you looked at them, they can't cover the pass to save their lives. Neither one of them. And it's not because of injuries. In either case, they just stink at it. So the Browns are the Browns. I don't know. See, I do, Ethan. I do look at this schedule and I say to myself, there are challenges, but most of them are calendar related. Most of them are, okay, they're playing this game and then they're playing on a Saturday and then they're playing on a Wednesday, which, by the way, is the Christmas game. That's tough on the body. That's something that I hear from the players daily. When they have Thursday games, when they have night games, when they have Saturday games, short weeks, what messes them up is trying to make sure that they have the physical recovery that they need to go and play another football game. Because when they don't have the physical recovery, and this is the one thing we're never supposed to talk about, but that's when they get hurt. That's when soft tissue injuries in particular will occur more commonly than they will at any other time if you're just playing Sunday, 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 Sunday. So am I concerned about anything in the schedule? Yes, it's that. Am I concerned about the opponents along the way? I don't know. I mean, ask me when they line up, you know, ask me who the quarterback is. That's the big thing. I appreciate the question, Ethan. I appreciate everybody checking out Double Shot all week long. We'll be back with another one of these Monday after, big game.